What's going on, guys? In this video, we're going to be checking out the brand new McFarlane Toys The Walking Dead Color Tops, figure number 23, Negan. Okay, so let's get the tape measure going. Negan stands at a hair taller than 7 inches tall. If you take the figure and attach him to the display base that comes included with him, he stands, wait for it, he stands 8 inches tall. So he comes included with the same display stand as we've seen with Carl, basically all the other Walking Dead figures. Perfectly fine with the reuse of these stands, as they at least look consistent when you have them all on display. Hollow on the underneath, you got a single peg at the top, and comes included with Negan. One of the other accessories that it comes included with, of course, has to be Lucille. Unfortunately, Lucille has seen better days. Well, the sculpt's pretty good. There's just all these little splotches of black all over her. And there's areas in which it almost look like they just took the paintbrush with silver and just went like this. Not really being mindful of where the barbed wire is and where the wooden bat is. Just kind of, does it not look like they just went like this with the paintbrush? So yeah, the barbed wire could be a little cleaner. From a distance, you don't see it as much as, of course, when you have it up close. Now, he does have the means to hold her. Of course, he would have to. It's a very difficult feat to actually get him to hold bat, and the bat itself is a very soft plastic. So I find, just pry his fingers open and wedge the bat in there. Luckily, this is at least all more pliable plastic, and he can display the bat. You can also do the trademark pose of Negan holding the bat, very cocky-like, and you can have him displayed like this, which is probably how I'm gonna ultimately display him. In this instance, I don't mind the fact that you can hold, and you at least have the means to, you can do different articulation with this guy. It's gonna be something I want to talk about in a second, but at least I like the fact that you can, pose him in different ways. It doesn't have to be. He could have been just sculpted like this, and I would have been perfectly fine for it, because with the color tops, I kind of go into it knowing I'm either going to be robbed of articulation, or I'm going to get excess amounts of articulation where I'm thinking, what are we doing here? He does also come with one other hand, which the only idea that I can come up with for it is we just take the out of his hand, try our best to pry this open again. Like, this one hand is a much denser plastic. It's funny that the material is completely different between the two. I can't actually even pry it apart, and you have to kind of wiggle the bat in there to get it actually in his hand. And it's just a gross effort to try to get it in there. But the only thing I can gather is the interchangeable hand is for him to be pointing Lucille. It's like it's 3D. He's pointing it right at the screen. So, if he's choosing, for example, amongst Rick's group, that would be that hand pose. And I guess it warrants having both hands, as then you do have the means to display it in both ways. If you arch the arm this way, you couldn't get the same effect as using this hand right here. So again, it warrants at least having it. You get two different options for how you can display Negan here. Just for the record, though, he doesn't have an other interchangeable hand. He only has the one hand here. Let's get Lucille out of this hand. Thank goodness this is a soft rubber. Like, if not for this being a very pliable plastic, good luck actually trying to fit it into the fingers of Negan here. That being said, let's have a look at his face, which actually looks pretty good. Despite what feelings I may have about the posability of these color top figures / statues, now we want to be figures, now we want to be statues, the head sculpts are generally pretty good, on par with looking like the actors from the show. Negan here looks pretty good. Very smug look on his face. They've given him the lighter little areas of white in his beard and the slick back hair. Everything looks really good. He's got the little red bandana, actually coming across more like a cranberry here, and he's got his jacket. He's got no behind whatsoever. I don't know why I always noticed that in the show, but he's living in his pants. Like there's no fat or anything going on in there. He's just the pants are just hanging off of him. Why I feel the need to mention that in this review, I don't know. Some nice wrinkles there in his jacket. Of course, the zipper's all predominantly featured there in paint. Unfortunately, you do notice this big glaring joint in his arm. I still don't know why they sculpt it to make it look like a ratcheted joint when it's few and far between from actually being a ratchet. You hinge the arm, but in no way do you get the little click or anything like that to indicate that that could be a ratcheted joint. And yet, they sculpt it as if it is. I don't know. Alright, so let's have a look at his posability. This is kind of where it's like, what are we doing here? Negan, surprisingly, has a fair bit of posability, and yet I could stack him, say, next to a Rick or a Michonne or whatever else we've looked at in before, and unfortunately, those figures then are limited in posability. So again, are we talking figures? Are we talking statues? Let's run through his posability. His head is what appears to be on a ball joint. It is limited, though, because he's got, I guess because the scarf is wrapped around his neck the way it is. The arms hinge outward, both arms. I say both arms as if that should be expected, but in a lot of cases, it may only be one arm that's posable on a McFarlane figure. The other arm is staction, or maybe you only have a swivel while this arm can hinge out. It's just a strange concoction, just a ragtag, different points of articulation on these figures. He does have the hinge in the elbow, which also rotates the forearm, and a rotation in the hand. That is the same on this hand as well. He does have a waist swivel. I don't know what's going on with the legs. The legs look like they should have posability, but I mean, you can't hinge them forward. You can't hinge them out. The only thing you can really do is kind of rotate them like this. Again, what's the point? Why not just have this as a sculpted piece? Has a joint in the legs, so you can rotate the legs, and you got the bend at the knee, and you got also a swivel in the boots. So this isn't necessary. Like, what am I accomplishing here? What is the end goal for this configuration that this felt necessary to be included? This could have just been one sculpted piece instead of seeing a big noticeable line here. Can't do really anything with it. And again, like the legs are posable, the arms are posable, the elbows are posable. So why is this a statue? Some would say it's not, but why is it being advertised like an articulated statue? It does have articulation, yes, but it also, like, there's also figures available of Negan as well. So like, what's the thing about color tops that I couldn't simply have gotten from a 7-inch Negan figure? Despite all that, despite what weird feelings I have towards the whole color top system, I like color tops, and I like what they're going with the line, and there are some interesting color tops coming out, for example, like Jareth, that I'm really excited about picking up. But then there's other times where I'm looking at the figures, or I even use the term loosely for figures. I look at these statues and I think to myself, when do they decide that these are figures, and when do they decide that these are statues? In a case like Negan here, I can't honestly tell you, is this an action figure or is it a statue? Because for all intents and purposes, it's an articulated figure. Why is it being branded under a color top when really all the previous color top figures had very limited posability and really relied solely on designated pose sculpts that Negan can easily accomplish and then some? Despite that, it's actually a good looking statue, articulated statue, that looks really good. I just happen to really like Negan as well, that the piece showcases well, but again, I just don't know whether you would class this as an action figure or if you would class it as a statue. Today, though, we were looking at the McFarlane toys. This was the Color Tops Figure 23, or Statue 23, or whatever you want to call these 23. This was the main bad guy, Negan. Great looking collectible. We'll just call it collectible. Great looking collectible here in Negan. If you guys haven't a chance to subscribe to this channel, what are you waiting for? Hit that little subscribe button down below. You're good to go. And if you're also a fan of the other Color Tops reviews, I almost said figures, there's also a whole playlist there where you can go back and check out the previous Color Tops that I've already done. As always, guys, thanks for watching. See you next time.